test ideas, challenge assumptions, and build relationships that may outlast this festival in itself. The solutions that Africa needs will not emerge from one institution, one discipline, or one country alone. They will emerge when bright minds come together with a shared commitment to solving meaningful problems. And that is exactly why we are here, ladies and gentlemen. So on behalf of Africa Health Collaborative, Ashesi University, KNUST, and all of our partners, I want to say once again a big welcome to the Health Innovation Festival 2026. I would love us to keep this energy throughout the events. Thank you very much. So before I even go on, I want to get a sense of who and who is in the room. So how many participants here are joining us from Ghana? Just show by hand. Or you can shout. You can shout as well. Oh, I see some of the Ghana flag there. Okay, okay. How many participants are joining us from outside of Ghana? Outside of Ghana? Excellent. How many founders and entrepreneurs do we have here? Founders and entrepreneurs? Oh, there are not many at all. What's up? How many researchers are in the building? Researchers? Any researchers? I see you, researchers. How many students are here? Students are here. From any level, students? Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Investors and ecosystem partners, any of you here? Just one at the back, two, okay, okay, thank you. Oh, you didn't give them a round of applause. Investors, they hold all of the capital. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, to officially open this year's festival, it is my honor to invite two individuals whose institutions continue to play an important role in advancing research, innovation, and health entrepreneurship on this African continent. First, we have a wonderful individual. She's a distinguished educator and academic leader with more than 3 decades of experience in higher education across Africa and the United States. She currently serves as provost of Ashesi University and principal investigator of the Ashesi Health and Care Initiative. And throughout her career, she has championed innovation in education, faculty development, research capacity building, and entrepreneurship. With a thunderous round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Professor Angela Owusu-Ansah. We'll let the applause continue.
Good morning and welcome to Ghana. Welcome to the Health Innovation Festival. So, in my excitement at the thought of coming to welcome you, I thought of two things. So I asked a young person, that I'm going to be meeting a lot of young people. What should I focus on? And then I asked those who were part of last year's festival to also share with us or share with me what was the outcome so that I could come and share those two things with you. So those are the two things I'm going to do as part of my welcoming you all. So when I asked the young lady what was on the minds of young people, and I also told her and shared with her that we're going to be doing a lot of collaborating and teamwork and sharing of minds, she shook her head. She said, that's not what young people want. They like to be on their own, isolated with their social media. She added, you see, when you are not on social media, you don't exist. And she says, we brand ourselves through social media. We put ourselves out there and we ask people to rate us. The downside of that is that then we get anxious. And sometimes when we see the ratings, we are unhappy. So I said, hey, so what should I tell them? She said, ask them to be present. Just for the 3 days, be present. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how 4 different people were present in the outcome of their being present. Because the purpose of this festival is to get you to think, create. 1/9 of 18 is 2. 9 plus 6 plus 2, 17. So then she took her camel and left. So you see, sometimes being present means you have to collaborate. And sometimes you even have to go to another generation, older, maybe even younger, and sometimes a different gender. Another one, for being present and how it helps you to think differently. Demis Hassabis is a computer scientist. His area is games. He designs games. One day he decided that, what am I doing with my life just playing games and making games? He realized that games help you to solve problems in a safe space. He heard that there was a challenge with something called protein fold. And the protein fold is the unit for making all sorts of things, curing cancer, helping with waste. So he decided to use his knowledge in games to create a whole range of protein folds. He came up with 200 million protein folds, and he made it open access to the entire world to help all of us solve cancer problems, health problems, etc. So sometimes in the most unlikeliest place, you can find a way to solve problems. Last one. A Japanese engineer was asked to build the fastest train in Japan. He did well to do it. Oh, he built the train all right. But it came with a piercing sound because it was traveling so fast. It just so happened that this Japanese engineer is also an avid bird watcher. So one day he was watching birds, and he saw the kingfisher, it has a very long beak, dive into water, and it did it silently. Bingo. He redesigned his train so that it had a long beak-like feature. The sound problem was gone. So being present, sometimes you find solutions in nature. So there are many more. I put it out there because you're going to be thinking during this period. Remember to be present. One of the things the young lady told me was that sometimes there's unhappiness. So just to counter, this was for the anxiety part, let's counter the unhappiness. Seligman says there are 3 kinds of happiness. There's happiness when, there's the first kind where you're eating something you really enjoy and you're very happy, or you're watching a movie. That's one level of happiness. There's another level of happiness where you're doing something you really love and you're in the flow and everything else fades into the background. But he said the most powerful kind of happiness is when you do something to make somebody else happy. So as you're designing and thinking through, think about how your product can make somebody else's life happier and better. My last point. Well, what did the Secretariat tell me about what happened last year? They gave me an example of the outcome of being present. So there was this, and I have to look at this because that one is a bit new for me. A Nigerian venture called Grow Kinesis. He has a great impact story. During last year's festival, he was present enough to meet other people intentionally. He's from Nigeria, from Botswana, and from Kenya. So now his product has expanded beyond Nigeria to Botswana and Kenya. He also recognized a similarity between himself and another venture. The other venture was greater fitness, and he was into nutrition. So now they have collaborated, and now there's nutrition and wellness and fitness in that particular company now. And last but not least, being here, he recognized universities like University of Toronto were there, AMREF was there, H2I, and then ALX. He, by the time he left, had formed part of their ecosystem. They wrote for a grant, and they received the grant from one opportunity here. So the Secretariat now is really pumped. They want to be able to produce 100 of such stories by 2031. Will you be one of those stories? My last parting words, be present. And again, welcome to the Health and Innovation Festival 2026.
Thank you very much, Professor Angela Usu-Ansah. One more time for Prof. So I mentioned that we have two big people who will be giving the welcome remarks. The second person is one of Ghana's most accomplished public health researchers and academic leaders. He's a professor of epidemiology and global health at KNUST, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and former pro-vice chancellor of the university and principal investigator of the KNUST Africa Health Collaborative. He has led major international research initiatives, secured multi-million-dollar grants, mentored the next generation of scientists. I love that whistle. I love it. Mentored the next generation of scientists and is recognized as one of Ghana's leading research scholars. He's a big man, basically, in summary. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Professor Ellis Owusu-Dabo.
I'll tell you the day I become big, I shall let you know. A very good morning to you. Show me some presents. We just heard about presents. Very good morning to you. Excellent. Presence means also let your voice be heard. I just thought that, we should allow ourselves to chew on what Professor Usu-Ansah has just shared with us. But I was only daydreaming. I want to talk to you about two things. First, I want to recognize the participating institutions who have made the Africa Health Collaborative what it is. And for all of you participating institutions, do you want to give yourselves a round of applause? All of you are here. 5 years ago, we kept talking and dreaming prefrontal cortex, daydreaming. What were we going to change? Came up with 3 pillars. One is employment, the other is ecosystem, and here we are on entrepreneurships. And for me, the health entrepreneurship is the indestructible egg of the 3 pillars. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. The concept of indestructible egg does not exist. But there's an egg that comes close to it, the ostrich egg. The ostrich egg potentially can incubate an adult, and I'm referring to an average, adult weighs approximately 70 kg. And an indestructible egg that comes close is the ostrich one. And I'm saying to you that HENT, or the health entrepreneurship pillar, for me, has become our indestructible egg? The reason is that we're here being funded, partnered by the MasterCard Foundation, and harnessing the resources and the ideas and the sort of technologies and all the things that we're looking at in trying to shape our current and future generations. There's one pillar that feeds back in a way that brings about resourcefulness. That pillar is the health entrepreneurship pillar. We started from somewhere. We said that just last year at the convening in Kigali, we said this Africa Health Collaborative is big. And so whatever you are here to do in the next 3 days, think of yourself, your idea, your venture. It always starts from here, idea. Think of it as a very big thing, but importantly, that you are the representative of that indestructible egg. Think about that. That means through your venture, through your ideas, let me not run ahead of myself, through your ideas, the health collaborative is bound to succeed and to clone itself and replicate itself. That is what we're looking for. Building robust systems, moving away from all the issues that we have, preferring solutions and ensuring that our current and future health systems across the continent is better than we have inherited. And we have great partners, great minds, investors, scientists, and as we have heard, all of you have gathered so we can find solutions to be able to prefer answers to our teething problems across the continent. And that is why I want to welcome you specially, because you're present to offer your ideas. That idea will become that indestructible egg that will preserve this and this and future generations to bring resourcefulness. Let's do this together. Let's do this together. I see the Africa that is emerging among this fourth and fifth industrial revolution, and it is possible. It is possible. Let's do it. Let's not run to the other side and say there's greener pastures, so-called greener pastures. It's not true. It's greener pastures here, greener pastures. It's even greener here. It's greener here. The opportunities are here. They abound. Where you find many problems, it means there are many opportunities to solve those problems. Where would you prefer? If there's less problems at the other end, why wouldn't you be here to prefer those solutions to solve those problems? There is where your ideas are. That's where you get it right and contribute to this indestruction. I want to thank you for your attention, and I wish all of us a beautiful forthcoming 72 hours of engagement, of interaction, of creativity, and of making sure that we solve these problems and make the Africa Health Collaborator and the Africa Health Systems what we want it to be. Definitely better than we inherited. Thank you very much.
Professor Eliso Dabo. And you see why I say he's a big man. Evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to say a big thank you to our professors for sharing these welcome remarks. I want us to think on this a bit. If innovation helps us imagine the future, then culture would remind us of who we are. And so with that being said, before we proceed, I want to invite you to enjoy a very special performance. This performance is called The Healers, and it's performed by the Noyam African Dance Institute, and this performance was written by Ni Tete Yati. So ladies and gentlemen, for the next few minutes, enjoy.
Let me tell you a story of origin, of breath, and of survival. In the beginning, before time had a name, there was the unseen force of Nkrumah, the divine spirit and the divine will. Together with Ashesi, the living ground, they shaped existence and created Onipa, humanity. They gave us form, they gave us breath, and they set our hearts to the cosmic rhythm. But Onipa is a fragile creation. Nkrumah knew his people would face shadows. He knew they would encounter sickness, weakness, and imbalance of the body and the mind. He knew the communities would cry out for protection. And so, from the vastness of his divine grace, Nkrumah did not leave his people defenseless. He set down special souls, chosen and anointed, their healers. To these healers, he whispered the secrets of the earth, the roots and the leaves, and the ancient truths of indigenous medicine. But he also gave them a restless, brilliant spark of innovation, the power to look at challenges and build new tools, new regimes, and new ways forward. They were sent to Q to clear the heavy clouds from the troubled minds and to bring innovation and strength to the community's health. They are the healers.
African Dance Institute. Now, this is a little bit off topic. I want to share something very personal. I don't know how to dance. I'm a bad dancer. But dance is so powerful because in what you just experienced, there's expression, there is storytelling, there is harmony, there is communication. It's powerful and it's intense. I especially love the part where they all died and the doctor came to resurrect all of them. That was lovely. But this was wonderful. All right. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker this morning is a respected healthcare leader, institution builder, and advocate for quality improvement in health systems. Recently appointed as Chief Executive Officer of Ghana's National Vaccine Institute, he's expected to play a key role in strengthening Ghana's vaccine research and manufacturing capacity. He has held leadership roles with the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, founded the Dubai Quality Institute and the Center for Social Justice, and previously served as Vice President of the Ghana Medical Association. His work continues to influence conversations around healthcare quality, leadership, system strengthening, both in Ghana and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our keynote speaker today, Dr. Soji Tete.
Well, thank you very much. I know there are quite a number of people in the room, so I have to be careful not to mess up the protocol. So the leadership of KNUSD and Ashesi, I'm happy to see my senior colleague, Professor Ellis. Then the Office of Vice President International. Then all the participating institutions of the Africa Health Collaborative. I understand we have a few investors in the house. Of course, students and faculty. I'm very happy to be here. And thank you for the kind invitation to join you at your Innovation Festival. I reached out to a couple of young scientists at the National Vaccine Institute, so I have here with me Omabo and Aaron. We may be joined, we may be joined at some point by Elizabeth because of the flooding situation. I'm sure she's caught up somewhere. I also invited my daughter, a student at Ashesi in the law faculty, but that girl thinks she's the busiest person around. So she could not grace us with her auspicious presence. So hopefully when you have the final meeting tomorrow on campus, she might be able to join you. My understanding is that you want us to reflect a little bit on what Ghana is doing to achieve vaccine self-sufficiency. You want us to reflect on the intersection between public policy, the private sector innovation, and how we come together to address a health security issue. So I'll spend the next few minutes doing just that. There's a global vaccine divide. There's a challenge that we are confronted with globally, and more so in Africa. And over 99% of the vaccines that we use to treat various conditions for mothers and children are imported. And Africa manufactures less than 1% of the vaccines that we need. Many of you may be aware that Ghana is graduating from the Gavi program. Gavi is the funder, they procure through UNICEF, and they have a co-funding mechanism where they complement whatever the countries are able to pay. As of last year, Ghana contributed about $25 million to the total bill. By 2030, we are graduating, which means that at that time, every year, Ghana has to cough up about $50 million to be able to buy the vaccines that we need. The question now becomes whether we are going to use the money to buy vaccines manufactured elsewhere and invest in other people's economies, or we are going to invest in our own economies. And this is where the president has taken a strong position and said that we need to fight for vaccine sovereignty, we need to fight for Africa's health sovereignty. You know what happened during the era of COVID, where we witnessed a phenomenon that was called vaccine nationalism, where countries invested in their own research and development, developed the vaccines that they needed to combat the pandemic, and addressed their national needs first and foremost before coming to Ghana. And so we are really on a burning platform because, as you know, the matter of pandemics are always with us, particularly in Africa. If it is not COVID, it is Mpox. If it's on Mpox, it is Ebola. It is always one thing or the other. And so in the wake of COVID-19, the government of Ghana set up the National Vaccine Institute under an Act of Parliament, Act 1097, with a mandate to coordinate and supervise all of the activities relating to vaccines, research and development, and manufacturing in the country. So NVI is just about 3 years old, and the agenda is to achieve vaccine self-sufficiency in the country. I know that innovation is critical in your lingua, and happily, innovation is also one of our values, because we do need to tap into innovative technology to be able to leapfrog instead of starting everything else from scratch. In terms of what we actually do, there's a matter of technology transfer. I mean, you cannot just wake up overnight and decide that you've become a vaccine manufacturing country. So it's important to sign these tech transfer agreements with various experts, people who have been doing it for years, so that together, we can go forward. Resource mobilization is key. Vaccine manufacturing is quite resource intensive. People need in excess of hundreds of $millions. So NVI has to really mobilize the resources that are required to manufacture vaccines and to engage in vaccine research and development. The Food and Drugs Authority, these are the national regulators, to make sure that the vaccines that are manufactured do not short circuit on the quality and safety protocols, to make sure that the regulatory mechanism is robust. And I'll say a little bit about that. And so we have the responsibility to coordinate our efforts with that of the Food and Drugs Authority. At the end of the day, it's about manufacturing. And so we also need to ensure that we have plants that are fit for purpose to manufacture. And in the instance in Ghana, we are working with private sector. And there are two companies that we are working with. Atlantic Life Sciences, that has a plant on the Dawenya stretch, and then DEK Vaccines Limited, somewhere towards the eastern region. Of course, we have to look for sustainable financing, both within the public sector and then in the private. And then we also provide policy advice. So every now and then, we may advance a position to either the health minister or His Excellency, the President. We did a rapid evaluation of the ecosystem in Ghana to see where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are and what we could do to be able to support the environment. And by far, the gaps that we face are in the manufacturing and the human capacity sector, because you do need people with specific skill sets and qualifications to support you in the manufacturing agenda. At this point, sometime last year, we got a market authorization for the manufacture of snake venom antiserum that we have actually manufactured for the first time in Ghana. But in the process of doing that, we had to invite experts from elsewhere to help us with the potency test and stability test and all of that. So this is really a critical gap. Funding is still a little bit of an issue. Regulatory environment is pretty strong. But by far, we have really, really world-class scientists who have been doing all kinds of research in the area for a very long time. And we are hoping to collaborate with them to be able to get the points that we will be getting to. So we are very clear what the gaps are. So in terms of how we move on from here, there are the issues around what we are doing internally as an organization. We have said that we want to build a world-class organization. We are trying to create an environment within the National Vaccine Institute that is not like what you might think of when you consider public sector. So a number of young people, people who are highly motivated, people who want to do great stuff, who are there. We're also attracting different skill sets and various talents into the institute. From the preamble that you read, I was vice president for Africa, Middle East for a number of years with my organization in Boston. My deputy has been working as a scientist in the UK for some time. We recently poached, they don't like to hear that word, but we got the dean for allied health from University of Health and Allied Sciences to step down from his deanship to join us at the NVI. So we are attracting a lot of good talent to come and help us to do it, because we realize that the agenda is too big and no one person can do it. There are a number of firsts also, because as we work towards the external agenda of manufacturing vaccines, it's also very clear that we need to build the institution. For example, there's no legislative instrument. So we are 90% down with that activity. There's a draft with the Attorney General Department, and hopefully when Parliament convenes, we will get that passed. That then gives us the mechanism to operationalize the National Vaccine Institute and to also begin to generate funds from some of the services that we offer, because right now we are entirely dependent on the government of Ghana. We've also established an audit committee for the first time, and for the first time we've conducted 2 audits to show how the systems are set up and whether they are responding to what needs to be done. A budget committee has been set up, an entity committee has been set up. For the first time, we've operationalized all the 7 committees of the board of directors. This is just to build the institution and to bring credibility to the way things are done. Externally, there are quite a number of things that we need to focus on. Of course, the overarching vision is to establish Ghana as a vaccine manufacturer, to make us ready to address all pandemics that come, and ultimately to get some products out. And last but not the least, to build the human resource capacity that is needed to be able to take the agenda forward. So there's a lot of action that is happening to be able to close the funding gaps that I've spoken about. We're developing investment cases because it's not really government that is putting up the manufacturing plants, reaching out to private sector so that if people want to invest in some of these companies to take things forward, yes, the investment case will make that clear. Market access is very critical. I mean, what is the point of manufacturing if there's nobody to buy it? There has to be commitment to purchase what we are manufacturing in Ghana, in Africa, and all over the place. And that is where the NVI is going on, developing a market access strategy. I've said quite a bit about regulation. There's also R&D capabilities. The point is that when you talk about manufacturing, you are going to manufacture vaccines that exist, vaccines that are being used in the expanded program of immunization. But R&D is what we need to be able to respond to pandemics, to identify new vaccines. So it's very critical, and I'll say a little bit more about that. And then partnerships. You know, you couldn't say enough about that in terms of those who are helping us with the tech transfers, in terms of funders, in terms of institutions like the International Vaccine Institute that are all helping to be able to move the agenda forward. And ultimately, in yellow, we are talking about our target because we're working very hard to get our first vaccine out, and that is the tetanus diphtheria vaccine. And God willing, 2027, Ghana should be able to manufacture the first vaccine. So last year, we did the Vaccine Manufacturing Investment Forum and invited His Excellency, and there he pledged an additional $50 million as seed funding to the National Vaccine Institute. And the president was very categorical that this amount should go into manufacturing, into promoting regulatory compliance, and then to build the skill sets. And that's really what we intend to do. I've mentioned 2 companies already, and these 2 companies collectively have a funding gap of about over 100 million US to be able to build their plants, to be able to equip them, and so on and so forth. So constantly, we are in conversations with IFC, the World Bank, Ghana Exim Bank, AFDB, First Atlantic Bank, anybody who can help us to be able to close the funding gap. We are constantly talking to them. We've spoken to an investment banking firm in Ghana, and they are helping us to put together the investment case. Because right now, there's openness on the part of the manufacturers to attract equity investors. So if you wanted to own shares in the companies, now they are ready to be able to do that because this is not a one-man company business. We need more hands involved. And I've also talked about what we intend to use the president's money for. I've spoken about the matter of market shaping. And the vaccine environment is a little bit different. I know you are entrepreneurs. So you talk about your business plan, then you look at the markets, and your markets are open. You can sell to the entire population and all of those things. The vaccines are quite a different ballgame because they're a very tightly controlled market. It's the governments that buy it. So you do need the governments to commit to buy it. It's not on the open shelf. You can't just walk into a pharmacy and buy the vaccine. So this is really a very specialized area, and which is why we're so pleased when His Excellency the President said that he is committed to committing public funds to purchase these products, including any reviews to the Procurement Act that may be occasioned. So currently, the National Vaccine Institute has put together a document before the health minister to take to cabinet for government to formalize that position so that whatever vaccines are manufactured locally will be bought. Otherwise, it will really hamper the agenda. We've also gotten a number of people to help us develop a market access strategy. As many people will tell you, the Ghana market is a little bit too small. So then there's a view on the ECOWAS market. We have about 400 million people to make sure that we can at least reach some bilateral agreements with the likes of Nigeria and others who are graduating from Gavi, so that once we create the market, it becomes easier for these companies to take it up. You may also be aware of the Africa Pool Procurement Mechanism that has been set up by Africa CDC, which is aiming to aggregate demand across the continent. So that if Ghana manufactures, let's say, tetanus diphtheria, we want to be able to reach an agreement with them that says you supply not just to Ghana, but to a number of, let's say, West African countries. So there's a lot of intense activity that is ongoing there to make sure that we do not manufacture products that then sit on shelves, but then there's an outlet. You are the business people, and in my little understanding of the business, there is no business unless somebody is willing to give you money for what you are manufacturing. Otherwise, what you are doing is just pouring your money into some inputs. There is no business unless somebody is willing to give you money for whatever goods and services that you are manufacturing. Recently, we took a delegation to Indonesia. They met with their regulators, and there's a strong partnership that is there. Indonesia has been manufacturing vaccines for over 100 years. They supply over 80% of the world's demand for oral polio vaccines through the Gavi UNICEF mechanism. And we have signed a tech transfer agreement. So they are the group in Indonesia is a government-run agency called PT Biopharma. They are the ones working with Atlantic Life Sciences in Ghana to manufacture the first vaccine. And so we took a delegation there, FDA, the Atlantic Life Sciences, and there's a lot of capacity development. We are training them. Through a partnership with GIZ, the World Bank, we've invested almost $1 million in purchasing equipment, conducting tests, taking them for all kinds of capacity building and vaccine load release to make sure that the regulator is capacitated to be able to support us, because we do not want to create any substandard product for the good people of Ghana. And at this point, we are fairly certain that the FDA is ready to be able to engage in vaccine load release and to ensure that the necessary regulatory protocols are fulfilled before we release any vaccine in Ghana. We've talked about R&D, and we are doing, there's a partnership with the German government and then also with the EU on a project that is called PharmaVax. And we've dedicated about $800,000 to buy laboratory equipment for 6 institutions in the country so that they can equip their labs to be able to engage in additional research for what is happening. In about 3 months, we are going to roll out a research innovation grant. This is about 1.7 million euros. And what we are doing is to foster collaboration between those in industry, in actual manufacturing, and the researchers, so that they can do some innovative work. Again, remember that we are building capacity for when there is a pandemic, or for us to be able to develop our own new vaccines, which is quite separate or complementary to the manufacturing agenda. So this is a specific program that we are going to be issuing out. We've gone through the selection. We know those who are going to win, and it will be announced in due course sometime this year. You all know the role that mRNA technology played in the wake of COVID-19. So His Excellency the President has released some funds to the NVI, and we've purchased mRNA equipment from the Quantum Group in Belgium. And 2 months ago, we sent 5 scientists to Belgium for training. Last week, we again continued the training and brought some of the scientists down to train. And mRNA gives you the opportunity to respond rapidly, in the case of any outbreak. It also is very adaptable because you can use the same platform to develop multiple vaccines, and then it positions you in a strong way. So this is a partnership between the National Vaccine Institute and Noguchi at the University of Ghana, and this is a new lab that we have set up at the University of Ghana to be able to help us in our pandemic preparedness. In terms of strategic partnerships, there are quite a number of people that we are working with. I've mentioned International Vaccine Institute. This is a treaty-based organization, and we are going to become formal members. And we know that is then going to open up a lot of resources, training opportunities, scholarships for young people, and so on and so forth. There is the work we are doing with WHO to assess the clinical trial capacity all over the country, the developing countries, vaccines manufacturers, WAHO on market access, the African Medicines Agency, which is a new regulator that is supposed to look across the continent. And there are various ways all of these people who are in the ecosystem, we are constantly engaging with them to understand that Ghana is really serious about making a mark. I started off talking about the gaps that we have in terms of capacity. So a big chunk of the allocations to Ghana will be used in building a simulation hub, hopefully at Legon, but, well, yes, hopefully at Legon, because those are where we are having the conversations. Because people are being trained in school, but I'm sure it's no surprise to you, there's a lot of theory, in the training. So people need practical skills to be able to step into the manufacturing plants and to work, which is why we are going to create the simulation lab. And this will be a state-of-the-art facility that we are putting up. So at this point, we are going through feasibility, we are developing business plan. In fact, I'm going to a meeting on this particular thing later today. We do need this so that young people leave school and do not feel incapacitated as far as the training and the manufacturing is concerned. And this is a good one. And hopefully we'll start off with a lot of scholarships, but there's an eye on sustainability that in the end people should also pay fees so that it will stand on its own. We are not trying to be entirely dependent on government. So I've talked about the LI, I'm talking about this. Ultimately, we are positioning the National Vaccine Institute to be able to generate its own funding from multiple sources, through grant writing activities, through fee for services, and all kinds of things that we are working on at the moment. So I have said what the plan is for the future. Atlantic Life Sciences partnership with PT Biopharma, and the target is that in 2027, the first vaccine comes out. In fact, the health minister doesn't want to hear me talk about anything apart from when the vaccine is coming out. So whenever he meets me in the streets, in meetings, wherever, he says, Soji, when is the first vaccine coming out? But we are working on it. And next year, hopefully good things should happen in that partnership. At the end of the day, all I want is a vaccine, is what he says. So next year, we'll give Honorable Akando his vaccine. So in terms of what is happening, we've manufactured a snake venom antiserum this year, and I have 4 vials sitting in my office in case you have any doubts. This year, we are going to go into commercial manufacturing once we are contracted to do so. There is also manufacturing of anti-tetanus serum that is happening. There is also the manufacturing of tetanus diphtheria vaccine, which is also underway. We are developing, welcome, Elizabeth. We are developing the market access strategy, and we are continuing with the discussions to be able to mobilize the funding, additional funding that is required by the manufacturers. And hopefully, we should firm up the plan for the R&D, give out the grants that we are talking about. To quote the president, the next pandemic is a matter of when and not if. And if you already even count the pandemics that have happened since COVID ended, you will know that the president is right. So the president's agenda for achieving Africa's health sovereignty, his agenda around Accra reset, the capacitation that he is giving to the National Vaccine Institute, he's right on all fronts because it's only a matter of time that the next pandemic threatens to consume us. And although in other places they will tell you, I recall that in June of last year, I was in Brussels with the president, and we had a meeting with Bill Gates, and he said there's a lot of capacity, manufacturing capacity in the world, so you guys have to, think about what it is. Well, yes, there's capacity in the world, except that that capacity is never deployed in favor of Africa when we need it most. So President Mahama is absolutely right when he says that we need to fight for our own health sovereignty. Otherwise, everything else places us in a vulnerable position. I'll end by saying that Ghana is building a resilient, self-sufficient vaccine manufacturing capacity to protect its people and to contribute to global health security in Africa and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. One more time for Dr. Soji Tete. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we want to move into the first set of breakout sessions for the day. For participants in the idea stage track, your session, Sprint Lab from Concept to Canvas, will take place in the Emery Hall and will be led by J. Paul Santerre. He's the senior lead mentor with H2I at the University of Toronto, with more than 245 publications and over 70 patents and extensive experience supporting health innovation ventures. He would guide participants through the process of transforming ideas into viable venture concepts. For the participants in the early stage track, your session, Go-to-Market Mastery, will take place in the Kuzia Hall and will be led by Frendane Sevane, who is Vice President of Operations at Ripple Therapeutics and lead mentor with H2I at the University of Toronto. Her expertise spans product commercialization, regulatory strategy, quality systems, and scaling health ventures for sustainable growth. Staff delegates and participants assigned to the networking session will remain here with me at the Cedar Hall. So our volunteers are ready to guide participants to their respective rooms. Please follow their directions, and we look forward to reconvening later in the day. Our volunteers are the people in the Ashesi University T-shirts. Thank you. So let's move to our breakout rooms. Thank you. All of them. All right, just a quick one. Those going to Emery Hall, please move to the left side of the room. And those going to Kuzia Hall, please move to the right side so our volunteers can have an easy way of directing you. I don't even know. Your left and your right, not my left hand. Your left and your right.